Welcome to the Golden Nuggets.
This podcast is sponsored by Vital Signs First Aid Training Centre.
Introducing Vital Signs First Aid Training Center, your ultimate destination for workplace safety excellence. Our CPR AED training are absolutely essential. Imagine having a confident and well-prepared workforce at your disposal. A workplace where every single employee knows exactly how to respond in a crisis situation. You can create this kind of workplace with our hands-on training sessions. Our courses are designed to be not just informative, but enjoyable and unforgettable. Schedule a CPR and AED training session with us today, and you'll even enjoy an exclusive discount for early bookings. Don't wait. WhatsApp First Aid to 874-84007 to secure your spot. At Vital Signs, your workplace safety is our top priority. Join us in making your workplace safer and more prepared than ever before.
Nuggets, back to the episode.
Hey guys, welcome back to part 3 of the Golden Nuggets podcast episode with Abang Osman. Right, you want to continue with your last question?
Yes. So, last question, the previous question, Abang Osman.
Okay.
2008 was a tough year. You mentioned 3 years in the rates.
Yeah.
And you also talk about your principles. So, I wanted to ask, you not taking up any bank loans, is that because of the principles that you have? And also, how do you tie through the 3 years then? Do you get any investors or anything like that?
No, we did not get any investors. Until now, we don't have any investors also. To answer your first question, not taking a bank loan, is it because of my principles? Yes, it's because of my principles. Because number one, my father taught me to not to take unnecessary loans. Okay, I'm not saying that business loans are not necessary, right? But Alhamdulillah, my father also taught us the value of money and how to really control money, manage money, right? So when things are doing very well, of course I don't splurge into luxury things. You know, I never thank God I was never a car person.
Okay.
So I don't straight away buy Mercedes, BMW or what. Alhamdulillah, we came from a very humble beginning, from kampung and all that. So we know how difficult it was last time. I wouldn't say that dulu kita orang susah, no, because my late father was really a very hardworking man, and he worked like 2 jobs, and he has a sideline and all that, you know. But we are still not like rich, very rich lah, right? But even if let's say that time my father have enough money, also he will not spoil us with luxuries. No, you know, it's always always remember, you know, to live below your means. So we always taught like that since young lah, right? So that principle I still bring until now. And when things are good, I make sure my savings is enough, because we know that rainy day can come, you just don't know when. Yes. Right? And then it came, right? And then the thing about the banking system is that when you are down, they don't nak pinjamkan duit susah. They don't give you loan easily.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the collateral. You're down already, then how you want to pay me back?
Yeah.
Right? But when you're already doing well, then they say, hey, we have this loan, we have this instrument you want to consider. So, and that time it's a good thing that the financial crisis happened. Then I learned, I met this Ustaz Masruhin lah, Firdaus Masruhin, during my Zoho prayer at the Masjid Delta, Kampung Delta, which was near my office last time lah. Then so happened he was teaching about riba, you know, and I found it, it's quite interesting, riba, because we know about riba but we don't really understand fully about riba. So at least the principles of riba he shared with us. It got me really interested, and I read books, and then I refer to the Quran, the translation kan. And then I was very scared, and tengok macam dia balasan dia, it's like wow, yes. I don't want to be like that. And aku ni buat business, you know. And I still hold to the ada satu hadis. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not really kuat sangat bab ni lah. But I remember satu hadis saying that Islam encourages you to do business, right? And if let's say you're an entrepreneur, a businessman, right? Your what do you call that? Your level, your apa ni? Your level lah can be as high as the para anbiya.
The status.
The status, yeah, sorry. The status. Your status can be as high as the para anbiya, or it can be lower than an animal.
Yes.
So which one you want to do? So I hold that very dearly until now. So then I really then I must really take care of the steps that I take when I do business, because I don't want to be a lower than animal. Kalau boleh, I want to be in the status of para anbiya, because you want to be with them in the afterlife.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my principle that hold true lah. Then whatever that I can not do, I don't do it. So and it helps with my the training that my father gave us as a family, and then live below your means, and then always prepare for rainy days. So that helped me tie down the bad periods of business. So then I developed my own sense of financial or monetary management for the business, and personally, of course lah. Right?
Yeah.
So and then we also believe lah, if Allah wants to give, He will give.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know. So again, it's easier said than done, but we try as much as reda lah. We usaha already, and then the rest is up to Him. Right. If it's yours, I think that it's yours. Right.
So am I right to say how you tide through that period is you have enough cash in the bank for your company? That is how you manage to tide through that period?
Definitely. The finances, the bank in the company finances is enough for us to sustain. Sustain that whatever that we have to pay, we pay. We don't drag sampai 3 bulan tak bayar. Again, I don't like that principle also, because the agreement is I agree to pay you end of the month, I will pay you end of the month, right? Because if let's say I drag the payment to you like in 3 months, then to me it's like aku menganiayakan kau. Then it's not good for us to aniayakan another person. If let's say we really in a dire strait, we really macam I really cannot lah, I will meet you and say I really need more time to have this understanding between the two parties, right? Because if you force me now, so I don't have anything to pay you, right? So it's good to reach to a new agreement at least, so that both parties understand. Jadi we lessen the ill sangka buruk lah between the two parties kan.
Yes.
So that's how I would do it lah.
Okay, that's interesting. So what's important is make sure you have good reserves in your company. Yeah. Alright, Abang Osman. So I think for the final part of this podcast, we want to ask you, because you mentioned you have been in the as a sponsor, as an advertiser for the podcast industry for 5 years, almost 5 years now. Can you share with us why did you decide to jump into the bandwagon very early on in Singapore? Because podcasting in Singapore with OK Let's Go, they just started in 2019.
Fairly new lah.
Yeah, fairly new. Why did you decide to be the first mover in terms of advertising through a podcast?
Yeah, first and foremost, in 2019 there wasn't a bandwagon. It was,
it was just new lah.
It was new. Okay, we know that the podcast is not new.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Podcast has been around since early 2000. Apple started it and then have this podcast, and it's just that as a medium of entertainment or a medium of content creation in Singapore, I'm sure there are Singaporeans, Malaysian, Indonesian that did podcasting before, cuma dia tak fly.
Betul.
And very silent people just do not know, right? The history was, like I mentioned to you that we follow the evolution of the business of the market space and the internet and all that. I follow Gary V, right, for quite some time, and he mentioned also about podcast is another media that is good because it's intimate. I can understand this because from 2005 when we started Organic Health, we were advertising on radio. So we are very familiar with the strength of audio. So audio format is, I always say this, is intimate. So like somebody who is listening to your podcast now, to how boring I talk about very dry subject, until the third session right now, that kind of intimacy you can hold somebody to listen to 3 times 25 minute session. You see how intimate is that?
Yes.
Right? It's not TikTok, you swipe tak suka, tak ada gambar bogil, swipe, okay? Right? So it's very different, right? So the audio format is very intimate. So it is a very, from our 20 years of experience, audio format is the best format for you to convert sales. Conversion is good because the intimacy there, people trust you, people can people believe you more because people listen to you, right? So then we already had a media team based in Malaysia, office, and we were doing drama lah, we were doing Facebook and all that, and podcast belum lagi. So in 2018 June, before Okay Let's Go starts, right? Okay, this is the history on our part, right? I already told my media team in Malaysia, I want to do podcast. That time we do not know anything about podcast, how to record and all that. We all do not know lah. Even microphone, got 2 type of microphone, so we don't know. Then I just throw that to my team, and of course being very busy traveling Singapore, Malaysia every other week. And my staff was like struggling, so how do you know? Until like October, November, then alamak, they are not doing anything. So I personally go to YouTube every day. Anytime that I have time, I go to YouTube. Podcasting, what is podcasting? This was 2018. So there was no Rodecaster Pro, right? And there were like other switches, others the mixers lah.
Mixers, yeah.
What the hell is this mixer ni? So I really learned from scratch.
So you started having an obsession on podcasting.
Yeah. So I know that we need to do podcast as a channel because we have our Facebook, we have our IG. That time TikTok pun belum keluar lagi, belum strong lagi. I think belum keluar lagi. Yeah. So we were doing social media and we were learning. The learning curve was very steep. We don't have media background. So I and Sujimi good friend, right? So I even get Sujimi to come down to KL, train our media people how to do video, how to do from the very basic. And this was in 2018, 2017, 2018. And then I learned about podcasts, and I was struggling. And come 2019, and suddenly in February, my manager told me. And that time, I don't know whether you remember, Zain Razi split in radio. Everybody knows. And then end of 2018, Zah quit radio. So I know that I had to find another avenue or create our own channel for audio because we're so used to radio, and radio was not working for us anymore. Because radio ni airspace, once your competitor have the airspace already kan, and that DJ yang can sell, not all DJ can sell those DJ are good DJ, and then that's it. You can see that your returns is really going down the drain, and then you're wasting money spending. So from there we know that we have to own our own media. Businesses have to own our media, right? It's very painful. We learn from there. And then February come, my manager told me, boss, Zang Razi buat podcast. Serious? What is the name? Okay, let's go. Okay, that night I listened to them, the first one. Of course, we worked with them prior to that. Previously, Dorangnya own show pun we become sponsors even before when they were still in radio, right? So we already understand how they can deliver. So when they do the podcast, straight away cakap, okay, the next day, Linda, call Razi, I want to buy the airtime. So then kita ding dong, take about 1 month jugalah for them to really finalize what's the pricing like and all that, because everything is so new. They were so new juga, and I think they were quite shocked juga that my listener called them. And they want to work with them immediately and all that. And because we understand the audio punya intimacy, how important audio is. And then now I don't have to worry about I don't have to rush to create my own podcast because all I need is just a channel. So that's why I work with them, and I believe strongly they can bring the thing, so all I need to do is not just to sponsor for my product saja, but we understand that we need to build this industry. And that's why you see we spend a lot of money on OK Let's Go. And the second year we sponsored double, 2 in a week, and like the people who listen to them can see that My Lifestyle is the biggest sponsor for OK Let's Go.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Were you by any chance the first?
I'm not sure them the first. That one have to ask OK Let's Go, because when they started, I think they were doing that day, Razim, that day, something like that. Right? So I'm not sure with other people have approached that. I'm not sure really. That is their side of the story. But from my side of the story, that's how it went. Right? From my lifestyle point of view, and that's why we supported them, and not just because we want to support OK Let's Go, but we can see that having this podcasting punya industry to grow is so much is good. Because then you have so many avenues, and we know audio is intimate. And then now lagi with you do podcast with video and all that, right? The lagi expand and evolve much better. So I like to see this evolution right now, and we know that 2023 last year, new podcast pop up macam mushroom. Right? So and I make sure that I continue my podcasting journey even when we are with OK Let's Go already. So that's why I started with my first podcast, Hello Abang Osman, now become Naked at Work. Now I change to My Lifestyle at Work. We have the history. In September 2019 we started. Right? Although listeners tak banyak, because we were not again we were not military and we are not, people don't know us then. But the point is, when we do that, we understand how is it like to do podcasts. So I always like to be in so many areas. Then you can understand the industry better. So that's that lah.
Okay. So you mentioned about My Last Day at Work. I think your second episode or your first episode, you were talking about sponsors should look into how wide and how deep the podcast is. For us as a podcast that is starting out, right? Can you define what do you mean by how deep sponsors should be looking at? Okay,
this comes with the 20 years experience we have with advertising lah, right? In radio and in podcast juga. Media company will always sell airtime to you kan, right? So as a sponsor, like if I can just share our history with radio last time, we don't have any idea how radio is going to help, the sponsoring game, what kind of ROI are we looking at, and then the length of time that the first ROI can come in, we have no idea. And media company will always sell you, hey, we have these numbers, right? These numbers, and you advertise with us, you have 1 minute exposure, 2 minute exposure, 5 minutes exposure to 300,000 listeners, 500,000 listeners. So that's that last time, right? And we cannot measure you mentioned 500,000 listeners. Are there actual data to show that it's actual 5,000 listeners, right? So I talk about the reach, right? So when they claim it's 5,000 listeners, so the reach is 5,000 ears, pairs of ears, right? So that is the reach. So when advertisers want to come into a podcast or into any media channel, the first thing they will always look at the reach. What is your listenership? Right? So in advertising is important lah. You want your name to be known by as many people as possible. So that's the first step. So that's the reach. Now the depth. Okay, this reach and depth is I define my own one lah. Right? To me, the depth is, what is the depth of your influence? Right? Last time in radio, we cannot measure that, because radio also do not know their actual depth, because they will depend on what Niels and Young ke apa, auditor to buat market research ke apa. And I tell you, there's another ugly side of market research. Banyak pun temberang juga, right? Just get number. We got numbers from this credible name, these numbers. But the reality, is it true? We just do not know, right? But now you cannot hide. Like if let's say I want to sponsor in your podcast, I will ask you, okay, can I see you use which your analytics, and you show me your analytics. Okay, I understand already what to look and what to I know already, right? Because I'm a podcaster myself, right? So there's a reason why I also want to do my podcasting, because I want to learn about everything so that I know what I'm going to do. So when the analytics will show you still your reach, your depth not so much. Your depth is where we will look at your social media connection, right? Because the depth is about depth of influence. Because if let's say you don't have the depth of influence, then my actual market for me to convert is almost negligible. Dia punya portion macam ni tau. Everything is about numbers, okay? A rough estimation, right? If let's say you have 100,000 listenership, right? Probably about 1 to 3% of that 100,000 will listen to me and be interested with my products. The conversion is another 1 to 5% of that 1 to 5%. That's how small it is.
Yeah.
Right. So of course it depends on products. So it's based on our numbers. So it depends on services and products juga. So that's why the reach and the depth is very important. Now that's one part. Another part when I mentioned in my podcast also, even if let's say your reach is small, right? Your listenership is small, but you can have a very deep depth. Let's say for example your listenership is only 1,000 people, but your podcast is very concentrated like yours in business, right? So I assume your listenership is smaller because there are not many business people, right? But then business people find high value in your podcast, right? And then it also depends on how you create your content. Then you bring like business people like us to talk like that. Then other business people also like to hear. So then you will have a stronger depth. And if let's say somebody or some company were to sponsor your, let's say a systems punya, katakan CRM system lah, So and this CRM system is really credible CRM system, and then sponsor you all, and then explain to the listeners, hey, my CRM is actually different. You are so used to NetSuite, whatever, and ours is like this, and then there is a value down there. So your conversion may be small, but for the sponsors, hey, this is good numbers for me, man. This is what I mean by so you can have a very deep depth when your listeners or your reach is small. It all depends on the genre. It all depends on your content, how razor specific your content is towards your genre. Niche.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Abang Osman lah. I wanted to ask earlier, what are some of the metrics that you would look at as a sponsor? And this is for the benefits of the other podcasters and other sponsors also. So what they can look out for. But I think he really answered it very, very well already.
Actually, I want to share this in the conference that I want to organize for the podcasting industry, right? But never mind, I just say je lah. The matrix, of course, the very first matrix we will look at your reach lah, right? How many listeners, and of course, if let's say we were to ask new podcasters, okay, what is your demographics? They cannot answer because they don't understand also. And first and foremost, podcasters yang nak buat podcast ni semua, diorang not background marketing ataupun background business. So kalau kita cakap demographics, sometimes diorang tak faham what is demographics. You know? So I say, okay, who are your listeners? Then they will just show metrics. Okay, our listeners will be like 20 to 30 year old is about 33%, and then 30 to 40 year old is about 45%. So only that, like that only. So those are the very basic metrics, kan? Then you can see your listeners male or female, right? How many males, how many female, right? Then as a business, kau punya product male or female banyak, right? Then if let's say for example if I want to jual extend, right? So then if let's say your matrix, if let's say you have like 100,000 listeners, and then your matrix is let's say 30 to 45 of listeners age lah, represents 70% of your listeners, right? So let's say 100,000 and 75 of your listeners, 30 to 45 years old will be 75,000 people, right? And then out of these 75,000 people, katakan only 20% of your listeners are women. So I have 20% of the 75% are men. So that is my target market already. Then I sell extend. Then I say, okay, I have a better chance to go with you than the other podcast, because you have more males in that demographic age that I can target my product with.
I see.
So then it depends. You sponsor, so you must tahu lah you punya product untuk siapa. You must be clear about your demographics. And then these are the metrics that I see lah.
So the messaging will be like, oh, husbands, buy for your wife, so and so.
The messaging comes after. Then this is your creative lah. How do you want to deliver your creative and all that.
Okay. I think we wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that was a very interesting sharing,
Yes.
especially towards the end, right? Thank you so much, Abang Osman, for all.
Because you're podcasters, right? So
Yeah, so that really helped us, and I'm sure other businesses, future sponsors, you all know what to look out for when it comes to sponsoring a podcast. And that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and Nas will be taking over the next episode, so stay tuned, guys. Peace. Bye.